What's going on, guys? Let's talk about tattoo TikToks. Let's jump into it. You know I'm gonna say the bad stuff, the good stuff, all this stuff in between. Let's do it. Okay, we got our first one. I have a scarred, blown out tattoo. Okay, just like based off of the image I'm seeing right now, it's the star on the left definitely looks blown out. The star above it also looks blown out, but it more looks like scarred than blown out. I'd have to know the exact needle size that they use to know if it's a blowout or if it's scarring, but it doesn't look good.
This is the second tattoo I ever did, and I immediately knew I messed up.
Why are you learning how to tattoo on your hand? That is dumb. Okay.
Despite it being worse than my first one, I love it because I learned an important lesson about depth and stretch.
So she did them both. Okay.
Which is especially important on bigger bodies like mine. It's my reminder that I'm learning.
Wow, this talked about subjects I was not prepared for, but let's jump into it. Okay, a bad idea. To learn to tattoo on your hands, it's like you could reach your wrist. So let's talk about tattooing bigger people. Yes, you definitely need to stretch more of the skin, and it can be difficult because if they are a bigger person who has, like, let's be honest, fat there, the amount of stretching you have to do is a lot harder. Doesn't mean it's impossible. If you're a big person, get tattooed. I say it has nothing to do with it. It's just talking about the technical application of tattooing bigger people, because the reality is things change from person to person. A buff person, like hella jacked, steroided out, can be also difficult to tattoo for different reasons. But yeah, different body types can be more difficult. One thing I've noticed that some really skinny people have extra stretchy skin, and that could also be a pain in the ass. You just can't get the depth, you can't get the needle. And like, one of the things that happens when you're tattooing someone with super stretchy skin is that you feel like you're pounding in the tattoo, and then you go back and it's just like not even there. And you're like, why does this line look so tiny in comparison to why it feels like I'm blowing out everything? But blowouts are pretty common in bigger people. I think it's because as a tattooer, we are having to stretch so much skin. That very thing I was just talking about, it feels like we're hammering it in, and we are, but the results aren't showing up on the skin. Just one thing to keep in mind if you want to tattoo, one thing to keep in mind when you're tattooing bigger people.
And creating a safe and gentle space for every body.
Now, I personally would absolutely never use the term safe and gentle space, but I absolutely agree with everything that represents. I think everyone should feel like they're comfortable getting tattooed by me, and I really like that. Again, I would never use that phrase, probably just sounds goofy to me, but I do want people to feel comfortable when they're getting tattooed. And I can appreciate people tattooing and surviving in the tattoo world in their own way, even if I'm not gonna talk like that. So good on that person. Just so you know, we are scheduling for July and September in Southern California. Book a tattoo, get something sick. So this is a blowout. This is classic traditional tattoo blowout. You know, you see them in the ditch of the arm, you see them in the inside of their arm, you see this blue haze that's like wrapped around the tattoo, and it just like kind of splinters off. Not a good look. But I think we're gonna see some tattoo removal to try and get rid of it. You know, this last video, I was talking so much shit about laser removal. Maybe we found some use for it. Okay, you've convinced me, laser removal. Maybe this is when you're the most useful, on those blowouts, those pesky blowouts no one likes. And especially when like you're tattooing traditional stuff, it just happens. Like if you're pounding in a 14 round shader into some unfortunately white girl's arm, blowouts happen. And it happens to dudes too, don't get me wrong. But in my experience, a lot of times it happens to women. Don't know why, couldn't explain it. But if laser removal can get rid of it, let's do it. Send it, let's go. Make people happy, I'm cool with that.
What is a common millennial tattoo versus a common Gen Z tattoo?
Millennial tattoo, I'm gonna go with Dreamcatcher.
That's my era. I love the Dreamcatcher tattoo. I am an old head, dude. And every time I watch TikTok, I'm reminded of that. Yeah, I love that era. Let's bring the Dreamcatcher back. If you don't have a Dreamcatcher, which I don't, I'm not gonna get but you should get one.
And then Gen Z angel numbers for sure.
The amount of angel numbers I've tattooed is crazy. And it's weird because I'm like, they're not that aesthetically pleasing to me, but I mean, most things aren't that like become popular. It's more about like the feeling people get when they see the tattoo, and I can respect that. But man, I hate doing angel numbers. Trying to make 3 numbers the same exact thing, each on an imperfect body, I'm always like, oh, could you give me a harder task? Next, you're gonna make me do like a black bar around an arm, which is just like also difficult. Way more difficult than angel numbers, I'll give it that, but also annoying. But it does make me laugh. Tattoo them a crap ton, and I'm just not that, you know, hey, they are what they are. I'm not gonna harp on kids thinking something's cool. I will mention it, but I'm not gonna harp on it too much. Okay, yeah, maybe don't. Go get tattooed, F it. Okay, so I think the one on the right is the go get tatted, F it, and you're showing some like flames on the knee and a moon on the finger, and is that angel numbers? No, that's an angel number ring. And then on the left, we say, okay, yeah, maybe don't. I'm gonna guess it's because of the quality of the tattoo. Yep, that is a not very good finger tattoo. For the few of you who have ever walked into a tattoo shop asking to get finger tattoos, and the tattooer was like, they don't really end up that good, this is what I'm talking about. Parts of this tattoo are blown out. Parts of the tattoo have fallen out. And this is pretty much what you can expect for most finger tattoos. Now, will I do them? Absolutely. Will I explain that this is a possibility? Absolutely. And still, almost every time people are like, I'm gonna go for it, and I go, let's do it, and I'm not forced because I can always make my own decisions. But I'm also in a position where I'm gonna have to do a bad tattoo if I want the money to do the tattoo. And to be honest, I like giving people freedom. Sometimes that means giving them freedom to get a bad tattoo. And that is what happens on the finger a lot.
All of you blaming that poor girl. I have a faded tattoo.
Oh, this is a part 2. Let's see. I mean, like this was a stitch. Let's see what she's got to say.
Her artist went too deep. She didn't f up her healing.
You can see on parts of my tattoo.
Okay, I love when people who have a tattoo, or maybe even 3 tattoos, or 5 tattoos, are trying to explain why a tattoo went wrong. Bro, the amount of hours I have spent in the back rooms of tattoo shops talking to tattooers, trying to get to the bottom of why something ended up looking the way it did is crazy. And I always think it's wild that like someone who hasn't had those experiences is like making these grand claims of why something looks the way it does. But it does make me laugh when I hear people trying to explain things that I'm like, that's not what happened, because that is not what happened with that tattoo.
I have a faded tattoo. I f my healing process for my tattoo. So let me show you what the difference is between a faded tattoo and a blown out tattoo.
So that is blown out and faded on the finger. And what I'm seeing, there is an absolute chance she could have scraped her finger, putting her hand in her pocket, and totally ripped off part of the tattoo, and it never healed correctly. So am I saying it's all the tattooer's fault? No, it could easily be the client in this scenario. A lot of times that's not the case, but she thinks that she messed up her own tattoo. Let's see it.
The corset is slightly less brown. It looks more like my skin color than the actual brown of the corset that it should be. Same down here on the socks. I lost some of the socks' true color, and there's little white patches. The smoky a little. Yeah, that's fading. That's my fault.
No, it's not. It can be, but there's absolutely a possibility that the person who put that tattoo in there smashed in color and did not do a good job putting that color in. Brown is a very difficult color to put in. I'm not saying, wow, this tattooer sucks. Not at all. I'm just saying certain colors are more difficult. And this poor girl is sitting here being like, look, it's my fault. And I'm like, no, it's probably not. It's probably your tattooer did not know how to apply these colors in super well, or the ink they were using was a bad batch, or your skin doesn't accept the same color. It could be all different things. And then we get to the fact that maybe you did mess it up, but it's not just your fault. I love when people are like, this is this is that, this is this in tattooing. It's not. Everything has variables, everything's changed, all things change, and one thing that happens on one person isn't exactly what could happen on the other person. And this, when I look at that tattoo, looks like someone who did a really good job, but not a perfect job. Like getting that brown in there to stay forever and consistent is a difficult task. They didn't do it. It's not your fault.
Hers is blown out. It wouldn't be like gray all around it and then a gray overline. That's not fading.
That can be a tattoo that was not applied correctly, not deep enough in the skin, and some parts blew out because it was too deep in the skin and other parts were just scratchy. Probably what happened was they blew out some crap on the moon and was like, ooh, I gotta lighten up because I'm blowing this crap out. So then they went back and were too light on the other side. That happens. It happens a lot. I can think of like a million times as a tattooer when I've made that mistake. Like overcorrecting and then you just have a bad tattoo for two different reasons.
That shit's blown out. Her tattoo artist up, and if you're blaming her, it's probably because you have a tattoo too.
Her tattooer made a mistake by choosing to do the tattoo. On to the next, I'm over it.
Hello, can I get a tattoo of a dot? What if I got 2 dots? Other way.
The other way.
Yeah.
So like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember why I chose this video to talk about because there's nothing to learn from it. There's no it's just a goofy little thing. But I did want to talk about when I was an apprentice, we had a client who would come in and only get moles tattooed on him. So he would get just little dots all over his face. And he was definitely selling drugs. He was a drug dealer. He was a junkie drug dealer with tons of cash. And he would get these dots, and because everyone kind of knew that he was a weirdo guy, they would charge him insane amount of money, probably $500-600 for a dot or two. And every tattooer who did this for this guy was always like, today's payday, we got moles to tattoo, because it takes 4 minutes and you know you're gonna get $600-700 of some illegal cocaine cash. The last time I ever saw this guy, he was doused in Vaseline from head to toe, on his shirt, in his hair, everything was covered in Vaseline, and he got a couple dots tattooed. They had to wipe that crappy Vaseline away, do the few dots, and when he left, there were bugs crawling on the bed. But he paid $700 for the tattoo, and everyone was kind of still okay with the scenario. And I was always like, dude, tattooing is gonna be fun. But yeah, that's what I was reminded when I looked at this. The videos, whatever. Dude, we're talking about removals again. Come on.
I had this whole sleeve tattoo, which I got removed.
What?
Oh,
really?
wow.
Yeah, look at it. I mean,
Looking at her sleeve, I might have to take back some of the things I said last video. In case you're not sure what I said last video, I was talking about how some of the final results of laser are crappy. Now, when I look at this sleeve, there's a lot of variables here. She could be wearing makeup on it. It could be the lighting. It could be the camera. It could be all different things. Let's see what she says.
I can't see it at
Do
all.
you have to cover up anything, or?
no, I mean, when I have a spray
Wow,
tan,
that's
it definitely, yeah, you can see the lines a little bit.
Okay, so she is saying when you look closely, you can see some of the lines. From this angle on camera, not a bad look. In case you're not sure who this is, I'm sure some of you dudes know what Plug Talk is and what her profession is. But yeah, okay, maybe some lasering is really good. Maybe. I'm not convinced. So I take back some of the things I said, but I think a lot of the results are still pretty bad. And she still says you can see some of the lines here, which means there is some scarring, but it just looks really good from this on camera. Okay, subscribe, I'll see you in a few days.